go. We're going to start in three, two. All right, it's time to talk with our featured guest, David Rodriguez. David, how's it going?
It's going great today, Michael. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good, man. Thanks for asking. If you don't mind me asking, where are you located right now?
Beautiful and snowy Lake Tahoe, Nevada.
Oh man, Lake Tahoe somewhere. Okay, I know before this you were talking about how you where you grew up at. I'm not too far from there actually. I'm in Southern California too.
Yeah,
So
we're a car ride away, and it's a great place to come spend a weekend, winter or summer. So you'll always be welcome at my place.
nice. I appreciate that, David. So tell us a little bit about your past, your present. How'd you get to where you are today?
Yeah, it's a great question. I was on a internal team meeting today, and being a panelist about my career in dentistry. It's 30 years this year, which I find hard to believe. I went very quickly, but I fell into dentistry just through a family relationship and thought it would be a very temporary stop. And 30 years later, here we are. So, over those number of years, I've always been pleased to be parts of what I consider to be innovative or very well-regarded organizations: Henry Schein, Straumann, Kerr, and most recently about 10 years with Invisalign. So if we really think about my journey there, I'm so grateful for all the color and experience that I've been able to experience as a result of being on this side of dentistry, which is non-clinical, but really being a partner to clinicians. It's been a great ride.
Nice. So then 30 years you've been doing this.
30 years this year.
What were you thinking to do when you were like, okay, I'm only going to be a part of it a little bit and then move on
Yeah.
to something?
Yeah, I was part of a family that at the time owned some medical businesses, and I really thought I'm going to come home from college and help Dad sort of ramp up the medical business. And funny stories, I get good news and bad news. And this is one of my last years in college. And I said, "What's the good news?" He said, "Bought you a new car." I thought, "Wow, that's great." "What's the bad news?" He said, "Sold the business." I thought, "Oh, okay. Well, I better figure out something else to do." So he gave me a good bit of advice, and I shared this morning. If you're and once you get a job in sales, if you're good at sales, you'll always be employable. And I think that's held true, at least in my career. And I've seen a lot of dental sales careers be very successful. So it's a good place to ply your craft, whatever that craft might be.
Gotcha. And then from that point on, that's where you jumped into dental or
Yeah, I took a sales role with Vita, the German company that does the shade guides and all the restorative materials. So I have restorative dentistry in my background and quite a bit of it. But when I took the job, in all honesty, Michael, I didn't know teeth had shades. I didn't know they had numbers. They basically gave me the phone book and a sample bag and said, "Go get them, Tiger." So talk about starting from scratch. So it's been a great ride, and I have met the most amazing people in dentistry, and I wouldn't give it back for anything.
nice. Awesome, man. Okay. So then fast forward a little bit right now. You're working for or who are you what is your area of expertise right now? What's your profession? What are you doing?
Yeah, so by title, I'm Vice President of Marketing and Professional Relations for Smile Direct Club. The fancy way of saying that, I'm usually the face and voice of Smile Direct to industry and to clinicians. For example, I represent us at the DTA. I represent us with AGD PACE for our CE, go to the industry conclaves. And what I'm hoping to do and what I do in this role is really establish SDC, as I like to call us, as a partner to industry. For a long while, we're known as a consumer-only company. And in fact, we have a partner network now that works with and for dentists. And that's really what attracted me to the opportunity. I got to Invisalign in 2011. It was a pretty small company. It was about 300 million in revenue. And in 10 years, we grew it to 3 billion. And I really want to see if we can replicate some of that success at SDC. I think there's very common opportunities that I'm excited about.
Nice. So we'll jump into that right now,
Sure.
how you helped Invisalign grow. But did it always start off Small Direct Club with consumer based, or this role was always here as well, like with partners with
Oh
other
no, this
practices?
this is absolutely new. It's less than a year old, and that's the only way I became aware of the opportunity with SDC. Is they said, "Hey, we're looking to start a professional channel that works for and with dentists. That our solution, clear aligner solution, will start in a dental practice. A prospective patient will get looked at by a dentist, and we'll partner with that dentist to provide clear aligner therapy." So that was really the only thing that attracted me. I don't have consumer expertise, and going to consumers is not in my experience, but working with dentists to grow practices and attract patients, that is in my experience. And so that's what I was excited about.
Gotcha. Okay, so then why did this kind of come out? What? Because I remember watching Small Direct Club ads and commercials and stuff like that, and I you see them right, and I don't know why did this. who thought of this idea where it's like, okay, let's partner up with practices now? What was the reason for
Right.
that?
It's really interesting. If I can reference my previous experience for just a moment, while I was
Yeah.
at Invisalign, we actually had an equity stake in Smile Direct Club. That's public knowledge; everyone knows that. And I think the thinking, if I'm wearing my Invisalign hat for a moment, is if the disruptive nature of direct to consumer really finds traction in our industry, I think as Invisalign, we really wanted a seat at the table. How do we maybe combine the two? How do we figure out what solution is right for what patient? And where is that patient? I'll give you a great example. I just came out of the Greater New York Dental meeting, and I love Manhattan, right? Who doesn't? And there's just millions of people and prospective patients in a 10 square mile area. Now I have friends that are fishing guides in Montana. They're 3 hours away from a dentist, any
Mm.
dentist. And if they need care or they have a life event, someone's getting married, there's a graduation, and they think, gosh, now's the time that I want that straight white smile. What do we do for them? We being industry and dentistry, what do we do for them? So I think, Michael, at the end of the day, there's probably a place for all of that. And the industry dynamics will tell us what, where, and how a patient wants to be treated. But I'm a big fan of a patient seeing a dental professional, a dentist, a hygienist, someone with the clinical care and experience to say, yeah, this treatment seems to be right for you. Let's go through the process diagnostically and let's figure out what it tells us.
Yeah. So, okay. So then this position or this partnership just came on like a year ago, basically,
Yeah,
right?
let's
Kind of
be
thing.
almost exactly a year, so a little bit less.
Gotcha. How's it coming along so far?
So far, so good. It's very interesting because you alluded to it earlier, right? Most professionals, dental professionals, have this notion that SDC still is exclusively a consumer company. Well, we have 1,000 dentists as part of our partner network so far, and that doesn't, it's a number. But if we look at, say, the number of general dentists that provide Invisalign, that's in the 80,000 range, right? So we've certainly got a long way to go, but we've had the opportunity to talk to dentists about their choices in a practice and their growth opportunities in a practice and what partnership really looks like. That's exciting. So I would say that we're off to a good start, but there's plenty of work to be done.
Yeah. And I remember you kind of mentioned it, how it was like at the beginning phases of Invisalign right now, where you're at with Small Direct Club or SDC. We'll say SDC.
Yeah, it's just easier.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. How is that like at the beginnings of Invisalign?
Yeah, if I can put myself back in that space, it was, well, it was very dynamic. I like to say we were paving the road as we were driving over it daily. And if it weren't for a couple key clinicians, Dr. Bob Boyd at University Pacific comes to mind, we wouldn't have had any credibility at all, in my opinion, with clinicians. If you can think back, this is just 10 years ago, but it's absolutely true.
Mhm.
We were told plastic could not move teeth, that what we were doing was voodoo dentistry, and that we were harming patients or potentially going to harm patients because a general dentist just doesn't have the training and expertise to provide orthodontic care. So orthodontists were really not happy. And if we think about it, to be fair, and I love orthodontists, many of them are dear friends of mine. They went to a lot of school for that ortho specialty, and they have a lot of training and how to move teeth and really aggressive movements and all that kind of great stuff. And I think that it's not either or, Michael. I think it's how can we increase the total available market? How can we provide treatment to more people that are seeking it or need it? If you look at the World Health Organization, 70% of the world's population has malocclusion to some degree. Well,
Mhm.
is 70% being treated? No, single digits are being treated. So I wouldn't say that bracket and wire, which was the standard for 50 years, is going to be the end all be all treatment modality. I wouldn't say clear aligners are the end all be all. I think it's going to be a mix and match depending on what market you're in and what those patients want. And if we think of it in that way and go back to that day, we knew we were right. We knew that we had a solution that worked. And after 10 years, I don't think anyone doubts the credibility of Invisalign. I certainly don't. I think it's a great
Mhm.
product.
Yeah. No, no, you're right. Even people now are like, they're the top 100 Invisalign providers, right? Or dentists. There's like
Yeah,
a little
I
awards and
know. I
everything like
know
that.
most of those people.
Yeah, yeah, you see that. So is that how like SDC is kind of going towards, kind of like that?
Yeah, I think if you look at the analog that we created and such a talented team over there at the time, and I worked with so many great people to just think differently. You want to
Mhm.
make the analogy. We were in San Jose. We were miles from Apple, and the late Steve Jobs was still alive, and we're always excited. Think differently, and the Mac and the pirate flag and all this kind of
Mhm.
stuff. And it felt like that, right? So it was kind of fun. And as the wheel started to turn, where we were more readily accepted, then it became, well, how is it then we help build an ortho practice versus a general dentistry practice? They're completely different animals in that regard. And if you think about the 12,000 orthodontists in North America, the penetration with clear aligners there now is excellent. And there's some great products in addition to Invisalign that are out there. But I would say that if you think back now to what we're trying to do with Partner Network, it feels very similar. And we're thinking about how do we help a practice grow? If clear aligners are the solution, and Dr. Michael is really comfortable with clear aligners, not one size fits all. There's some great products out there. Dentsply's got a product, Candid's out there, Clear Correct with Straumann. There's solutions now. Dentists have choices. So I think it now comes back to your specialty, marketing, growth, recognition. How do we build a brand for this practice with some of these solutions? And you don't have to go too far back, Michael, to think about other opportunities that have worked in the past. Whitening solutions, right? Bright Smile back in the day, Da Vinci veneers for cosmetic applications, Empress. I think if we have that mindset, the opportunity at SDC to create these partnerships becomes a little clearer.
Okay. So what does that look like? The partner network. What is that? What is that? The partnership?
Yeah, absolutely. So, there's a couple ways to go after getting the diagnostics that we need, right? You'll see some really exciting stuff coming out. It's public knowledge about what we can do through our apps, and I might talk a little bit about that later when it's appropriate. But I would say that we can't really start a case until we've got the diagnostics, obviously. So a scan, an impression, et cetera. There's a few ways to do that. Obviously, we can send some PVS to that person in Montana and say, hey, bite into this, and we'll scan it. We'll figure out what we have here. Ideally, a scan is what we'd like, right? And if you think about our smile shops, they're an opportunity. There's 3 of them in Manhattan where I was last week. You can walk in, talk to a dental professional, typically a hygienist, and he or she will scan you and get that file put into a system. And then we run it through our AI and our software. And we say, yeah, Michael, you're a candidate based on what you present with, what your complaint is. We think we can help you. Oftentimes we'll say, I'm sorry, Michael, our solution can't help you, and your movement is more significant than we can actually do. And we might, refer you to a local dentist or help you, seek treatment elsewhere. So if you think about Partner Network, I can't have smile shops in every town in America. I'm in a small town, Lake Tahoe. There's no way we could put one up here, but we could have 4 or 5 local dentists that are partners to us that could do that diagnostic, have that conversation with the patient, figure out what they're trying to solve for, and see if we can help them.
And so that would be kind of like, okay, like in Lake Tahoe, you do all that, and then they're the ones who say, okay, let me contact Smile Direct Club, and then from that point on, we'll come up with something, or
yeah, it's pretty similar to that, right? They're going to send in the scan, hopefully. If we think about PVS versus scanners, any company will tell you this. I want to scan because it's so accurate, right? My former employer would tell you we want to scan because we see so much else of what's going on in the mouth, right? We want someone to really help us there. But a good example, Michael, if you walk into that practice and they're snapping an impression and see you've got some really severe perio, that would be a disqualifier. We're not going to be able to treat you. And that's an opportunity for that practice to say, hey, Michael, let's work through this perio first. And then once we've got that under control, then I think you'd make a great candidate for clear aligners. So in theory, involving the dentist is always a good thing, or involving the practice, I should say, is always a good thing. And that's really what Partner Network is intending to do.
Yeah. Yeah, because I'm sure you've seen that a lot, right? Since it's consumer, a lot of them just want like straight teeth, but they don't know everything else going on in their whole situation in their mouth, right? And so let me ask you that, like, and this is one of the questions one of our listeners asked, like, what percentage of the cases would you say end with a successful result, and how do we know that?
Yeah, so I'm going to give you an analog again. The system that we use is very similar to other clear aligners, and you can pick the name. I think another one I know, or I am thinking of. And once we get those diagnostics, it's worked up into a treatment plan, which runs through some AI software, right? And so in this case, we have 2 million cases in our database. And so we can pull from those 2 million cases and say, all right, this case looks like these 30,000 cases, and this is how these 30,000 treated out to final position. So if you really look at the data that we have in terms of the cases we treated, not the ones we said no to, the ones we said yes to, our predicted results, we hit our predicted result about 99.4% of the time. Now, the one bugaboo, Michael, and I tell this to anyone that will listen, is compliance. One thing no one controls is the patient wearing their aligners? Are they wearing them properly? Are they wearing them as much as they're supposed to? Because if you don't wear your liner, your teeth aren't going to move. Or if you worn your liners pretty, pretty well for 6 months and then you stop wearing them, your teeth are going to go back to where they were before. So there's a lot more to it. But in terms of the AI, machine learning, the 2 million cases, we run the same back-end software as our largest competitor in the same place, Costa Rica, with a lot of the same people that I knew while I was there. And I have a lot of confidence that the treatment plan says it's going to move it to here. As long as there's compliance and nothing really wild happens, we're going to get there.
Yeah. And I think that's the tricky part, the compliance, right? Like, so when it comes to that, how can we be 100% sure that like the patients, they're evaluating for themselves at home what's going on, how they're doing everything, everything's fine, right? And then when they come to the dentist or something, we kind of see something is not going along the
Yeah,
lines.
that would be an outlier example because each week we're having a check-in with that patient. I want to go back to this notion of telehealth, not just teledentistry, but telehealth, right? COVID was a game changer in terms of telemedicine because you and I couldn't easily always get into our medical care professional, regardless of what the discipline was. They're closed, there's restrictions, we can't go anywhere. And yet, I might have something simple that I need some care for. I personally am happy to jump on Zoom, say, hey, I've got something going on here, and they're going to give me an antibiotic, and away we go. I don't personally feel that I got any less care. In fact, it was more convenient for me. So I think if we look at this notion of what does Zoom communication, two-way video communication allow, then now let's put it back into that question, which is, okay, once a week, we're checking in with that patient. Hey, Michael, have you worn the aligners? Is everything going well? Are they fitting okay? Sore spots anywhere? No, Dr. David, in this case, no, everything seems to be going pretty well. I'll tell you what, Michael, why don't you get our little, I think we call them smile stretchers, but retractors, right? Why don't you get a retractor, retract your cheek and hold your phone up and let me just kind of look and see what we got going here, right? If we think about the type of cases that we treat, they're mild to moderate, right? They're 2 to 4 millimeters of movement. This is not significant. We can tell if the diastema is closing or not. And usually it's a matter of compliance, because if that aligner doesn't fit, there was aligners not worn or something going on before. But if we're checking in every week, we have that contact, we're sending in the text, hey, Michael, time to change your aligner. we're staying on top of it. So the example they gave me is, 6 months or 8 months was the treatment time. And I show up 8 months later and, my anterior bite is wrong. I got a tooth coming out like this, whatever. It wouldn't get there because of the system that we have put in place, at least in my experience.
Okay. And then if it goes over that, is that when you're like, ooh, during the video conference, or actually who's checking in with the patients? Is it a doctor, like somebody who's full-time on?
Dentists and hygienists. Yes, we have a dental team, 300 to 400 strong, a mix of dentists and hygienists 24/7. So we kind of manage, the time zones. Right now we're in North America, in the UK and France and in Australia. So we kind of have to jiggle the time zones a little bit, but you get a hygienist or a dentist, and very clear if it needs to be, you have a hygienist and it's very clear it needs escalation, immediately a dentist joins the call. So they are licensed dental professionals.
Okay, got you. Because that's when I guess one of the doctors, Dr. Hubis, asked, like, how do you close so many of these 2 to 3 millimeter midline maxillary diastemas, right, without constricting the arch or causing chewing pathways interferences for the patient? If that's the scenario, what happens?
Well, so first thing, we don't take all cases, right? So that is within what we would say our treatment envelope. What turns a light green or red, right? Green, we can treat that. It's within our movement envelope. We have confidence that we can be a predictable outcome for the patient and the doctor at that point. Mild to moderate, I think the software tells us with a lot of confidence, it's basically, and again, I'm not a clinician, so clinicians that are listening to this, please, take that at face value. But largely these are cosmetic and aesthetic setups, right? They're not functional setups. We're not, changing the class of the bite and doing really aggressive things that frankly Invisalign and fixed orthodontics can do. We're referring that out. We can't help you, Michael, the patient. Let's get you to some place that we recommend, or maybe you already have a relationship with an orthodontist and we'd recommend asking them about that. But if we go back to the question, constricting the arch, well, we're certainly opening the bite, we're tipping teeth out, we're changing how they fit together. So it's not necessarily just via constriction. I think if you think about the bite in the posterior arch, we're not doing anything to that, right, in that particular example, and removing the teeth canine to canine. So if you really think about that simple nature of that case and uprighting the teeth, that would be my answer to you or him.
Okay, no, yeah, that sounds amazing. Like, or it sounds good. Good answer.
Or, are you a dentist? No, I play one on podcasts.
Yeah, no, yeah, and Dr. Hubis will be the one to to follow up with that. But at the same time, let me ask you, what are the reasons, I guess, for partnering up? Because if I were to hear this and I'm like in Lake Tahoe, I'm like, I can just do this myself. I'll just be with Invisalign and do it myself. For
Mhm.
what's the reason for them to partner up? Is it the marketing that you guys are doing, or what?
Well, I talked to a very large Invisalign provider just this week, and this is what he shared with me, and I'm paraphrasing because it was a long conversation. But David, we've been in the same area with a number of practices for 20 years now, and everyone has heard our story about what we offer: cosmetic dentistry, Invisalign, so on and so forth. And we feel like our growth is plateauing to a certain degree. And we also have had several patients come into our practice that we didn't know went through Smile Direct treatment and have a reasonable outcome. They were happy with it. And I thought to myself, this doctor told me, well, that's a missed opportunity. I could have provided that service or that treatment, and I could have kept that patient in my practice, made a happy patient out of the experience, and I booked some revenue as a result of that exchange, right? So if we think about not only the prospective patients, I don't use the word consumer, but prospective patients that come to us, it's about 150,000 a month that contact us through our websites and social media and all that are at least interested in having their teeth straighter. Let's just call it that. Now, what comes through the bottom of the funnel? That, Michael, you're now taking the next step. You're walking into a smile shop, or you're looking on the website for a dentist near you that does this, and going in, that number is going to vary month to month. But if we think about that, there's a big subset of patients that if the average clear aligner case is $5,000 to $6,000, which is the number that I know of nationally, and they can't afford it. That's just not financially in their worldview at the moment, but that wedding is still going to happen, whether or not they can afford the $5,000 to $6,000 treatment. So in that case, Dr. Michael, if you said, look, David, I actually have a couple of options for you, and here's option A, and it's $5,000 to $6,000, got all these bells and whistles, and it's terrific. But I will tell you, if that doesn't work for you, I also have option B. In this case, that might be Smile Direct Club. And it's going to be about $2,000. The treatment is going to be very predictable. I believe that either will solve for what you're asking me to solve for, and I'll leave the choice up to you. At that point, that dentist is much more likely to hear yes to treatment than I have one option. It's $6,000. And, other than third-party financing, if we just can't get there, we'll keep, it's like put a watch on it, right? Come back in the next time, we'll talk to you about it again. So I think it's about options, and we're no different than, say, some of our other competitors that I mentioned earlier. We're all providing a solution to a dentist, and we're trying to help the dentist really position that in their practice so that they can reinvigorate the growth in this segment.
Gotcha. Okay, so then this partnership is more like it's. I mean, you guys are. I would say your marketing is high, right? Like I see you guys everywhere. I see SDC everywhere. So because of that, it's more like if I'm the dentist practice owner, a lot of your marketing is on you, right? And then it funnels in through there, and then it can come to me, kind of like
Yeah,
that.
absolutely. I 30 years here, I still believe the best things happen when I'm talking to a dentist as a patient. I see the white coat, Dr. Such and such, and I feel comfortable and confident that the advice that doctor is giving me is relevant to me based on their experience, and they stand behind that clinical judgment, right? And that's just, all of the research tells us that there's a large segment of the population of higher household incomes than we presently serve at SDC that would be very interested in SDC solutions for themselves or their family, but they want to hear it from a dentist. They want to talk to a dentist. And so Partner Network is really to pull those dentists in and say, there's this big group of patients out there, and we'd like to send them to you so that you can provide your professional support and get them started in clear aligners, and we'll be the back end. If you think about it, it's not that much different than an outsourcing conversation, Michael, right? And when the original outsource is 30 years ago, your dentist had a laboratory in the back of his practice. And that person back there would make the crown, give it to your dentist, and your dentist would seat it. The original outsourcing is when the lab went away. There was a lab in the middle of town, and all the dentists started to use it, right? And then outsourcing became, wow, we're sending it to Asia to make these crowns, right? And you have great labs out there like Dandy these days that are outsourcing everything. Just take a scan, and we'll send it wherever we need to get you, doctor, the restorative solution that you're looking for. So if you think about it from a paradigm shift, we're the back-end orthodontic support to that general dentist in that example for a mild to moderate, anterior malocclusion case. It's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, man, that's awesome. So, and I love, I appreciate it, David. I appreciate you answering all these questions. Right? It feels like
Sure.
sometimes you're like, oh my god, you're grilling me, but like I appreciate you. You know what I mean?
No, not
Or,
at all.
and then if
I
anybody
asked
has,
all these questions before I joined, by the way. I've only been
uh,
with SEC about 5 months. So I
okay,
did all of this before I got here.
yeah, because honestly, when you guys reached out and I was like, okay, let's see, I kind of did some research too. And I mean, you do see, like, we all see the same thing in public, right? We're like, okay, stock prices are dropping, all these things is happening. Um, I don't know, people are complaining about advertising. What's up with all that?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think if you go back to being a disruptor, and I'll go back to my previous experience with Invisalign because I can probably use the stock experience there too. I'm a full disclosure. I'm still a shareholder with Invisalign, so or Align Technology. So to be there at 30 and leave at 700 and have it at 180, that it kind of gives you. It's like you're riding this roller coaster, and you're like, oh my gosh, my retirement, right?
Yeah.
But having said that, I don't have the experience of when the IPO happened at SDC. I wasn't a member of that there, and I certainly can empathize with investors across the board. Anytime I look at my stock these days, all the things are red, right? It's just like, wow, okay, I'm going to keep working and doing my thing. I don't judge the value of a company, by their share price. I certainly didn't. I felt when I was at Invisalign and we were $35 a share that we should be more. We're at 700. I thought, wow, the multiple of revenue, I can do the math, and that's pretty rich, right?
Yeah.
So I'm not an expert. I'm not the finance guys, but I'll tell you what, I spoke with a number of analysts in New York, because obviously they live and work there. So they came to the dental show and we're talking to the dental companies. There was a lot of excitement about Partner Network because of the TAM, the total available market. And this opens up another channel for Smile Direct Club to go after those patients that really are seeking this type of care and put them in dental practices and get them started at a higher margin, right? It's for everyone. So I think it's a great opportunity. But if we think about the disruptive nature, I've been there before. They really wanted a line in a ditch on fire. That would have made, I will say orthodontists in general, pretty happy because we're moving their cheese. They didn't go to school and learn clear aligners. And suddenly we come along with a computer program and plastic and say, great, we've got it. And I think the human reaction is, oh, no, 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 no. No, you don't. And that's not how it works. So I think it's pretty easy to throw rocks. I've been part of public businesses my entire career. And if someone can show me a very specific instance, we will do the research and we'll come back and say, this is exactly what happened here. And we're happy to do that. But I think my limited experience here, most of those cases have come up, it's sort of I don't know. There's not an exact patient name or an exact case, or we go to the Better Business Bureau and we fight hey, we're not advertising fairly. It's an ongoing game. And I think when you're changing things as dramatically as we're changing it, you can really expect some of that. And frankly, we do.
Yeah. They were the hims and haws. And then scurry, you got to be scurry, right? You said move the
Yeah.
cheese. So I was
Yes,
like,
yes, yes, yeah. There you go. Yes, absolutely. And frankly, I'm really surprised. Well, let me say it a little bit differently, Michael. I expected more of that than I get now. I have very long-term relationships with clinicians, key opinion leaders. I help create the aligned faculty. These clinicians that go out and really advocate for that type of therapy and this particular product, and their peer reputation is unmatched, right? And you look over here as we're creating that at STC with very similar types of clinicians, and they believe, I believe, and if I really felt, or any of us felt, that we were harming patients or was proven we're harming patients, none of us would do it. I certainly wouldn't. So if we think about safety and efficacy, clear aligner therapy is very safe and effective, and we're no different than any of our competitors in providing that type of care.
Yeah. No, yeah. And you know what? I think change is going to happen more now than like we've seen in 50 years, 60 years, in the next like 5 years. So things are changing. And so in a nutshell, I guess the partner network is like for the people who go to Smile Direct Club and then you guys say you're not a candidate. Sorry, there's too much going on, or this is not happening. This won't be a good.
Something like that.
You send them to dental office, right? The partner. Or if maybe they're already in Smile Direct Club and then things aren't working out. It's just like, man, you're you need better supervision, more accountability, something, right?
Mm.
You send them to the partner.
Yeah, in that case, they could go back to the partner. Absolutely. Now, I'm certainly of an age now. I'm no longer 20 or 30. In fact, I have a son that's 17 going on 30. But they learn everything off an iPad. Everything is from a YouTube video. Everything is an influencer and online, and that is a little bit different to me. But having said that, what we've learned is that a lot of the younger dentists are really getting their information and their knowledge, or at least growing that based on these sort of media type approaches. And believe it or not, our brand with consumers is actually quite strong from an NPS perspective. The untold number of young team members that came by our booth in New York and did the jingle, Smile Direct Club. And I thought, wow, it works, right?
Yeah.
So having said that, the point I'm trying to make is if we think about how we're disrupting a business, we're digitizing a business. And one thing I learned from the leader at Align was digital always wins. Digital always wins. Think about access to care, Michael. It's a two-way street, right? And we're involved in both sides of it. Is democratizing care, opening up via the financial transaction or how you get involved to a lot more prospective patients. Now, does that mean a lot more say yes? Well, we certainly hope so. But at the end of the day, if they're seeking care, they're going to find it. And if I partnered with Dr. Michael in this case, and you've got two solutions, you have a better chance, maybe 2x, of helping that patient, of hearing yes, and building your practice on a positive outcome with this patient at a price point that they felt comfortable with a result that they're proud of.
Gotcha. Okay. And so you said how much a month people are coming in?
Oh gosh, I should know that off the top of my head. But the number of interest, is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, about 150,000 a month.
Like patients, like potential patients,
Yeah,
like
just
or
just pinging like, hey, I'm interested in straightening my teeth. What does that look like? And so
wow.
if you think about the power of that, right? And let's just be conservative and say 10,000 of that 150 are really interested. They've got a life event coming up, or hey, this is just time they've hit a midlife crisis. Like, I just, I've been putting it. The kids are now in college, and now it's me time, right? Okay, great. How do I get after it? So, we feel like that choice of, well, we can start a couple of different ways. One of which is in a dental practice called Care Plus, and this might be a great fit for you. So we want to give them options. We want people to come in and seek treatment. We're aware that not everyone's going to qualify for treatment, from a functional standpoint or perio involvement, whatever it is, but we'd rather get all of that interest in. We think dentistry wins as a result, right? Because how many people, and you've been around for a while, how many people still have that, I hate the dentist? I never understood that. I don't hate the dentist. The dentist is trying to help you, right? And yet, oh man, I haven't seen a dentist in 5 years, and they're perversely very proud of that. And I'm thinking, wow, what's going on in your mouth? Right. So from that standpoint, I believe straight teeth are healthy teeth, and I have for the last 15 years in orthodontics. Right. And I think more people coming in and at least asking the questions, getting, some diagnostics done, talking to a professional, that helps everybody.
Gotcha. Okay. So then with that, the 150, or like, let's just say 10,000, that's still happening right now with like inflation and like a recession. We're technically in a recession. We just don't want to admit it sometimes.
Yeah.
But like so how is that? Can we foresee or have insight and be like, this number is going to rise up?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, the macroeconomics are awful. I don't celebrate that for ourselves or any of our competitors, right? It's not the easiest time in the last 3 years to be a dentist. They can't find team. And that's another great advantage to our system we should talk about, right? They can't find team. Hygienists sort of walked away and never came back, right? And so you have dentists doing hygiene. Wow. If I think about running a practice, and I've been a practice consultant, I think about the cost of that. I'm like, oh my gosh, and the opportunity cost of that dentist is now not drilling and filling, or now not doing some other procedure that has a high value to their production that day, right? So if we think about this, the macroeconomics will eventually improve. Is that tomorrow? I don't know. Is it 6 months from now? I don't get paid to make those guesses, thank goodness. But if you hear the investor calls from Invisalign, from Dentsply, from Straumann, ourselves, we're all seeing it the same way. We're fortunate in that our price point is more affordable. So we're probably getting more yeses vis-a-vis than some other competitors, but it's still not wine and roses for us these days. Those economic headwinds affect everybody.
Yeah. What is the price point?
It's about $2,000 to a patient for the Care, which is sort of the basic version, and then about twice that for Care Plus, which is coming out and has a lot more involvement and sort of a lot more bells and whistles. And if we think about new patient acquisition, that's probably where I'd sort of stake my flag and say, gosh, this is us being the best partner possible to a dentist is through Care Plus.
Oh, gotcha. That's the one where like we'll probably be a part of the partner program and everything like that.
Yes.
Okay. Would the other one be too or no?
Very limited. That the partner could take the diagnostics for us and just send it in, but the patient said, "Look, I want the sort of the basic version of this." And know that the first thing I heard not first thing, but one of the first things I heard when I was going through this process is dentists aren't involved. I think we all know that that's not true, right? So it goes down to Costa Rica, and a dentist or orthodontist, looks at the treatment plan. It goes back to, in your case, the state of California. We have licensed providers that look at the treatment plan, and okay, great. In my professional opinion, that fits the parameters, and we have a good feeling about how that treatment's going to turn out. So, if you can get past the obvious misconceptions, I think it's a really interesting model, because if we take it back to economy, is there a dentist that right now? I'm sure there's a few, but generally speaking, are they killing it? No, they're like, wow, okay, I'm pulling my horns a little bit. I want to make sure that, I've got everything on track. I'm taking care of my employees. And when the economy turns, I'll dial everything back up again. That's what I'm hearing, right? But if you think about chair time with a competitive aligner, you have the initial visit, and then every 3 months, you, Michael, the patient, are coming in for more aligners and a checkup. Let's call that a blended visit, right? You're probably seeing the assistant and you are seeing the doctor. So some blended share value, some X dollars that cost you to come in 4 or 5 times. Then there's a refinement, right? Got to come in, take another scan, do the refinement. This doctor might have, 6 hours of chair time in that clear aligner case. Well, now he doesn't have that assistant. She didn't come back, right? Or the hygienist is, double booked. And how do I appoint? How do I schedule? What's the workflow look like? And if you think about outsourcing ortho, and you see that patient the first time and at the end, unless they want to come in and see you again, it's a lot more efficient. And you don't have to worry about, gee, I've got my assistant dedicated this afternoon to all of my, my recall visits on clear aligners. It just doesn't happen that way.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's really, really nice. When it comes to, I know we touched on it a little bit, but let's rewind a little bit. You mentioned about shortage, right? In teams. And if we partner up with SDC, I would assume and hope like, okay, we're getting in more new patients, right? Or more people, more interest. How do you guys, I guess, provide like the day-to-day support with that?
Yeah, it's great. So we have some customer care reps out in the field. So you're talking, you certainly can do a lot of this digitally. You can Zoom with us and all that kind of good stuff, but we'll go get you all set up. We call our purple blurple. I'm not sure why. I think there's a marketing, the color has black in it, what have you, but we set you up with all the blurple stuff, the step and repeat, the oral care line. A lot of people don't recognize we've got a wildly successful consumer oral care line, bleaches and water pick devices and all the, power toothbrushes and all that kind of stuff. You go to Walmart, Target, you see it there. So I'm really excited about trying to tie in that brand recognition that someone's at Walmart and sees our oral care line, and now they're in the dentist's office and they see the same things. Like, oh yeah, I'm familiar with that, right? So it's kind of an interesting way to think about, okay, we're creating surround sound around the brand. But if I'm a dentist, and I'm going to sell myself for a second, if I'm a dentist and I think about, okay, 9 out of 10 patients walking in the door that want this treatment, I didn't know. I had no connection to them. They weren't already in my practice. And I have a chance to put on, my best face and keep them in my practice after this treatment is done. I think, and I'm sure as well, there's a lot of ways you can do that. At the end, when I like my smile and I'm happy, I'm in front of that step and repeat, we're taking that picture, hashtag straight smile with Dr. Jones, and everyone's excited and we're creating a lot of energy. And I'll give you this oral care swag bag with all the stuff and it's great. And by the way, on the way out, I say, hey, Michael, I'd love to see you back for a cleaning. This one's on me. Come back in about 6 months. We'll check on that smile. We'll get you in for a cleaning and just make sure that, it's white and bright going forward. I think that's a great way to hand off a prospective patient to that practice that they can keep them. And if we think about this, let's say for the sake of argument, it's 5 patients a month, just a number I pulled out of thin air, right? And you keep 3 of those patients. Well, let's do some math. Maybe that's 10, 12, 15 patients a year. As an annuity effect, year after year, that might be 20, 30, 40 patients after 3 or 4 years. And the lifetime value of a patient as well as I do. So I just don't know a lot of other brands that have this consumer interest that are putting patients into practices today. I mean, it might be happening, but I don't know it. And I know I've been part of businesses that talked about it before. We're actually doing it, and that's what excites me.
That is exciting. Yeah. So I didn't even know you guys did all that. The water pick,
Yeah,
toothbrush, all
I
that
didn't
stuff.
either until I got here. I'm like, wow, really? That the business is that big? It's pretty cool.
Oh, wow. Okay. 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 So, I mean, it sounds like to me, David, you guys have locked in on your marketing, right? Like everything's fantastic, everything's going good. The consumers are, you know what I mean? They're taking this product, but at the same time, now you've kind of realized, hey, there's too many people with needs, and we're just us. We need to outsource this to, you know what I mean? Give it to funnel it to other dentists, kind of thing.
Yeah, I go back to this notion of partnership, right? And if you participate in dentistry, if you take revenue out of dentistry, I think you need to be a part of dentistry, right? And this is creating opportunities for practices to grow based on a solution that 150,000 prospective patients a month tell us they're interested in. Well, if we can facilitate that, I don't know how much better partner we can be to dentistry, even on a micro level. Incline Village, Nevada, here around the corner. There's
Mm-hmm.
3 or 4 dentists in town, and if we just gave them 1 or 2 patients a year that were interested in this, that's real growth for them, or at least the opportunity to grow. And being that partner and really allowing for more patients to receive care in and of itself is a great thing, right? Access to care is really 2 things, right? It's identifying those markets that are underserved and creating opportunities to serve those markets, but it's also creating more opportunities and partnerships to take those services and almost permanently place them into those areas, right? We're very concerned about dental deserts. We do a lot of philanthropic work around scholarships with the NDA. We're really thinking about dentistry holistically. This is a big part of it. If we're not a partner with Dr. Michael, we leave a lot of opportunity on the table. That's you and I.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And the patient, right? The potential patient. But this is interesting. Like you open my eyes a little bit, David, because I feel like for the longest time when Smile Direct Club kind of came out, we always kind of saw them as like, oh, our competitors. And then the smile shops happened. And then we're like, they're right across the street, right? From like me. Are you serious? Like that's my
Yeah.
competitor. But now it's more like we have to, like you said, move the cheese, right? Like shift our mindset and
Mhm.
kind of just say, well, we're working together now,
Yep.
right? This is you guys will funnel things to me, and at the same time, like, I mean, I don't see how you can come out losing. You know what I mean? I don't see how a practice owner can come out losing in any of this, because no matter what, the consumer's either going to go to them, they already had it in mind,
Yep.
or now they're going to have to go to you because they went to
Yep.
them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm glad you're recognizing that. That's how we feel about it. And that's what we're really trying to build. When I get on some of the calls inside, and there's really smart, young, very young people talking about Facebook algorithms and TikTok videos. And I know that's part of creating awareness for dental care. Right. If you have a smile that you're unhappy with, and I've listened to a number of your podcasts, number one, I think your guests are great, and I really learn from their experiences. So well done with that. But if you talk about, I think you had a Dr. Soto from San Francisco on recently, and he was talking about, really high-end cosmetic care in an urban market, but also having to expand his brand so he can create a better opportunity for those patients looking for care and for his business, his practice as a business. And that solution is maybe something a lot of other practices aren't doing, but maybe they should. And I think about this in very similar terms. This is a little bit different, but it's also new and exciting that
Mm-hmm.
if we can, figuratively hold hands, Dr. Michael, here in, Incline Village, Nevada, and build a sustainable business that patients seeking clear aligner therapy go and see you because you've got some great choices and you've got a great reputation. Everybody wins. Dentistry wins and patients win.
Yeah. Nice, man. Okay. Yeah. That when Dr. Soto told me he had like 50 plus practice, that's San Francisco right there. Like it's
Yeah.
one building and and
Oh
so you
yeah,
can't depend on
Sutter
it.
Street. I've been in that building as a sales rep. It's like every floor has dentists on it. It's the craziest thing.
I know. And then imagine like the patient walking in, they're walking in the wrong one all the time. So
Yeah, exactly. And of course that practice. Oh no, yo, absolutely. We're happy to
yeah.
see you today. Have a
Yeah.
seat. Right. Yeah.
So that's crazy. Yeah. Like
Yeah.
SEO I don't know if it would work in that situation at all. So it's
Yeah.
so different, but awesome. All right, David, I want to ask you some questions just to get into the head of someone who is totally involved on the clinical side of dentistry.
Mhm.
Right now, what would you like to see more from a dentist?
Oh, that is a great question. I would like to see more openness to technology. And what I mean by that is, if you think about technology as a way to address capacity issues, it's
Mhm.
not just us. I'm wide lens here. Digital diagnostics are fast and efficient. Dentrix or any of the management systems, the scans. If we can see it, we can treat it. This sort of daisy chain of great things happening in a practice. I think if I've been in so many situations where I just got the hand from a doctor. I'll give you a great example is cone beam. When cone beam first came out, I was with Shine and walking into your practice, Dr. Michael, and saying, this machine costs $500,000 and it's as big as your third operatory, but we really think you need it. How many doctors said, oh, absolutely, I'll take two? None, right?
Mhm.
Yet, if we think about implantology and the potential risks to implant surgery, paresthesia, those types of things, right? Suddenly, if you've got the diagnostics that say, I have exactly this much room and exactly this much depth, and you dial in that little, that kit with your implant, you've got confidence. You can share that confidence with the patient. But they had to get past the investment to use that, that information, that digital information to create that value chain. So if we think about it, I'd really like schools in particular to invest more in some of this newer technology. I mean, digital radiography is not new. You'd be surprised the schools that still don't really employ it.
Mhm.
Scanners, not new. There's one scanner in a school and they're running it around 4 floors up and down, buy a few more scanners, right? So I think the openness to how technology might improve patient care, because that's where I stop and start. Did the patient benefit? Is this good care? Let's work backwards from that. And if they're open to technology helping them get there more efficiently, more effectively, more profitably, then a lot of this would be a lot easier.
Nice. Okay. I like that. And then right now, what do you hate or dislike about dentistry?
Oh, that's a great question. I'm not sure I hate anything about dentistry. It's been great to me and my family for 30 years, and I'm proud, super proud to be a part of dentistry. I think, Michael, it's no different today. And people ask me, like, how did you end up at STC? I've always been so proud of the brand I represented. Straumann, Henry Schein, Kerr, Vita, some of the best names in industry. And I walked in, and if a dentist and I didn't communicate well, or the dentist see my point of view about it, I always thought I was doing something wrong, because
Mhm.
that brand and that product was good. I must have put it in the ditch somehow. So I don't hate anything about dentistry because it's been so good to me. But I think what I dislike about dentistry is, change immediately brings out the rocks. Instead of being open to change, I'm going to grab a rock and I'm going to throw it at that change until, I knock that change out and it goes away. And I've seen it multiple times. And I think, I hope the newer generations of dentists are more open to that, especially around technology. Oh, you mean I can press the easy button? Oh, great. I'd rather just do that, right? Where the more seasoned dentists might not have that same opinion. So I think what I dislike about dentistry is the reluctance to embrace change, and particularly technology innovation.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think we're like that, like with the change, you know?
I think because we didn't learn on it. That's what it comes back to for me. I didn't learn on that in school, and so somehow now I'm uncomfortable with it, because that now isn't my deep experience. And when I put on that white coat, that patient expects me to have the answers. They really
Mhm.
do. Now, I'm not a dentist. I don't play one on TV. I have so much respect for them, but the clinical challenges that come up all the time with new treatment modalities, new types of materials, and of course, we're all dentists on Google now. We just jump on Google and we type it in, and we think we know. So I go into a
Yeah.
dentist and I say, "Hey, Dr. Michael, I want this." I'm not a candidate for that, right? But I don't know that because Google said I was. Right. So I empathize with them. But then on the other hand, my airline broke, my hygienist didn't show up today, and my landlord wants to raise my rent. Like, it's just not an easy job. And so I certainly believe that if they were more open to partnerships, and I'll use that word very carefully, and they have trust in those partnerships, then I think that they would enjoy what they do, maybe more than they do now. And they'd certainly have some choices as to, let's reinvest in the business, or let's take Fridays off and go golfing, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Awesome, man. And then right now, what do you love about dentistry?
I love what I'm doing. I really do. I'll tell you why. Um, Dear friends of mine that are in the industry said, "You're going to go to SDC." And I said, "Yep. And I'm going to change the perception of SDC." And so that's what I love about it, is the challenge. I would not have taken the role if I didn't believe that what we were doing was safe and effective. Let's just put that on the shelf, but also a great opportunity to create partnerships for dentists. My best friend married a dentist, so she immediately became my dentist through marriage, right?
Yeah.
And I think about Dr. Ann, and some of the challenges she's facing in her practice, and what a partnership really could do for her, not necessarily just for us, but maybe some others. And I really think that if we could, again, figuratively hold hands with more practices, patients benefit, dentists as business people benefit, and their teams benefit as well, because practices have another opportunity to grow and thrive.
Nice. Awesome. Awesome. Alrighty. And so then what does the future hold for SDC?
Wow. Well, if you ask me, we're going to be this huge partner network. We have an analog out there. One of our competitors has 80,000 general dentists that are able to provide their solution. I'd love to get, our group to that number. But I actually do believe in the mission of really providing access to care. So we're democratizing care because we're making it more affordable and putting it in more places. That's great. But I would say, from a legacy standpoint, I'd really like to see us continue to double down on the scholarships and the investments in underserved communities, and the grants for preventative care. There's schools like Meharry in Nashville, where SDC is based, that they really need a technology infusion, and they're looking for help to really turn out that next level of dentists that historically goes into underserved communities. It's an HBCU, and as a historically Black college or university, they've got a very specific mission for care. And if we can come alongside and really assist them, I like math, and I know this doesn't sound right, but it's true every time I do it. 1 + 1 can equal 3. And that's one example of it. So I think the mission is much wider than just growing how many cases we do a month. It's really being a partner to dentistry, and that's at all those levels I talked about.
Awesome. Alrighty, David. Sounds good. Sounds good. If anybody has any questions, concerns, or anything like that, where can they reach out to you?
Oh, yeah, sure. I have this really convoluted email. I'm happy to put it in the chat, but it's david.rodriguez02. Apparently there's another David Rodriguez in Smile Direct. I think he works in Costa Rica, but david.rodriguez02 at smiledirect.club.com. Easy way to get me. I certainly, if you'd like, give my phone number, they can just text me there. I'm easily available. I've had the same contact information for 30 years. So.
Okay, awesome. So guys, that's all going to be in the show notes below if you want to reach out to David. And David, thank you so much for being with us. It was a pleasure, and we'll hear from you soon.
Michael, thanks for the opportunity. Really enjoyed it, and keep on doing the great work. Cheers.